my body, and I never will. I've never had a dis-ease ever, except for a croup. And my mother hospitalized me for 2 days when I was 6 or 7, couldn't breathe, and a couple of broken bones. But apart from that and some teeth problems, yep, I will avoid those diseases because I'm saving myself. You see, salvation is based in salts. If you understand that salt is the carrier of electrical force for your body, and salt, you are the salt of the earth. If you understand this and you use the homeopathic tissue salts for that process, and non-ejaculatory sex, hence men can have a prolonged, sustained orgasm as long as a woman can, and he can even outdo her if he learns how to breathe and he learns how to practice white tantric sex, so he can now have a sustained orgasm, which is called a pneumatic spiritual air orgasm, and you don't have to waste any of your brain fluids, and you don't get retarded like a lot of people in the world who appear to be quite retarded. And you see all the wrinkly lines on their faces? Yeah, because they're ejaculating their potassium and calcium and all the nutrients from their brain. And see, you've only got a set amount of that fluid. As George Carey 100 years ago explained in his book, The Salts of Salvation and the Zodiac, a must read. If you take the salts correctly, you will alkalize the body and you will save yourself. And all of this is in the Bible, and much, much more, according to the presentations that I've done. But all the nasty things, as Bro Sanchez is saying, are also there. So they are also to be considered. And I've also brought those out in my sovereignty presentations, how the Bible is just that, a couple of papal bulls and testaments for the patriarchy to continue desecrating our mother who art in heaven. And she's the one who gives us the manna. And so the process, the alchemical process, is encoded there in the Bible, and you can save yourself there. But do be aware of also the nasty things, which also I have presented along the lines of Bro Sanchez, which will definitely curse you. So when you apply these things, see, the Bible, when it talks about tithing, it's not talking about doing it literally. So Christians run off and give 10% of their money to Satan in the blood-thirsty so-called churchianity out there. All of them, they're all blasphemous, blood-thirsty, money-hungry. The Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, all of them collect Rothschild, Vatican, fiat currency. And so it all goes to the satanic work of New World Empire, which they've been building for thousands of years now. And finally, when they think they're going to have it done, then they will be defeated. Of course they will. Go, bro.
I'm sorry. Someone want to know real quick, Santos, where do they get the salts, those salts, what you was talking about?
In any health food or homeopathic store, organic food shops carry them. Try to get the ones that don't have sorbitol or lactose in them, because that's sort of counterintuitive. But if that's all you can get them, because they'll still help you. The ones I take are the it's an Australian company, and they are sprays which you just spray under your tongue like this. You'll hear me spraying right now. And that was silica, which is the Sagittarius salt. And I get them from Martin and Pleasance here in Australia, but they're all over the place. And you can go to your homeopath, he'll have them. But you are the one that will have to apply them astrologically. And if you look at your chart, and if you see, say, for instance, Saturn in Cancer badly aspecting, say, for instance, squaring with Mars in Libra, which is totally a tragic square, because both of those planets are in detriment and squaring, well, you might want to take your Cancer salt, which is calcium fluoride, just in case, because you can see that Saturn is suffering by detriment and by aspect a square, which produces tetragonal radiation. Okay, that's why squares are so harmful. Tetragonal radiation is harmful. Trigonal or hexagonal radiation along the dome of heaven, which is the ecliptic of astrology, is beneficial. Hence, when you look at the chart, you will see what extra salts you need. But every one of us need at least 3 if we were in our mother's womb for 9 months. because as George Carey explains, in your mother's womb, you steal those salts from her body. She's a pillar of salt, like the wife of Lot. She has 12 salts in her. And so when you are born, then you have nowhere to get those salts unless your mother is aware of it and she feeds you. So me being Aryan, I'm born on March 24th, the salt for Aries is potassium phosphate. Hence, Aries, the first sign, the top of the head, the cerebrum requires potassium phosphate. It's a no-brainer. All scientists tell you that. The brain is running on potassium. And then Taurians need sodium sulfate for the cerebellum. Geminians need potassium chloride, etc. Okay? I'll leave it at that. If you want me to elaborate, I can go further in any detail.
Yeah, I like the information I'm hearing, and I'm glad I was able to get that information for the people in the chat. I just want to say, we have a lot of similar information, Santos. We do have a lot of similar information. I think where we differ at is at the base of all my information is the Great Mother, the darkness behind the stars, and all of the teachings of the mother goddesses of pre-dynastic time. So at the root of everything I know, I don't go back to any patriarchal deities, because every male was birthed from the womb. The study of the womb would teach us everything we need to know about reality. I've come to that conclusion that the womb is the gateway, it's the holy grail, it's the missing link. And the Christians used to worship the womb before they came with the first deity, Zeus. And prior to that, they was called the Minoan culture. And they had a serpent goddess. And after that, they cursed that serpent goddess in the book of Genesis, and they went into a patriarchal world. What was happening on the earth, where the world was changing, this American culture of hamburgers, meat eating, and heavy partying, and like I said, luxury and capitalism, this world was rising in 3100 BC. There were a lot of great villages and great armies that were matriarchal armies fighting to keep the laws of the old world. But hey, let me give a shout out to Inquisitive Bunny. Thank you, sister. But these old world tribes lost the battle. The world wanted something new. They thought that they wanted to be ruled over by the pharaoh. But how did the pharaoh get his power? In pre-dynastic time, in the golden age, we were living in autonomous villages. Autonomy has the root word AU. That's why it's called a golden age, because that was the time of autonomy, when no one ruled over us but Mother Nature. Mother Nature was the only government. After that, we had pharaohs, then came the Bibles and the religions. In order for us to get back to Mother Nature, we can't go through her with any text, with any indoctrination, with any book. We have to go directly to her, through nature. When you ask me about syncretism and etymology, I'm so aware of these things, but I break the rules of them. I don't study the typical way. Because of that, I'm able to unlock information that people never heard, but it resonates with them. And they can't argue with it because the images are there. Let me show you what I mean. Let me screen share here. It's confusion if you don't go back to the source. So if Christians were once Minoans who worship the great womb and the serpent goddess, here she is right here. This predates Jesus. This predates any Bible. This predates any dynasty. This predates any type of whatever you want to call of ideology. This predates it all. This is Isis. This is Ma'at. This is fertility. This is the Milky Way, the spiral of life with the breast. See, it's called a Milky Way galaxy because the spiral represents the womb of the woman, and the milk is what sustains us when we come out of the womb. That's why you see her breast there. The breasts are your second umbilical cord. So you come hooked to an umbilical cord, and when they cut that, when you're hooked to your mother's breast, and the Trinity, the third umbilical cord, is the North Pole. So every human, when you got your umbilical cord cut and you stop breastfeeding, the third pole that you was hooked to was the magnetic pole of the earth. You're now hooked to the great mother. You're now going off of the ground and the plants and the vegetation to feed you. First was the umbilical cord. Second was the breast. Now it's the great mother, the earth. And all energy is emanating from the center, from the womb. So if you see on this serpent goddess dress, she has an X right here because X marks the spot. And it has a diamond in the middle that's surrounded by 4 squares. Look at her dress. It has a diamond in the middle that's surrounded by 4 squares. Well, Brother Sanchez, why are you pointing that out? Because one of the oldest spiritual systems was the Vedics. And they told us about our earth. They told us that the great mother was at the center of this North Pole map. Is the North Pole called Rupus Negra. That means the reaper. Negra means black. So the reaper is a black deity. That's Nut. That's the dark sky. That's the darkness that you're going to go back to with death. When they say you can't escape the reaper, well, you can't escape sleep. Eventually, you're going to fall down and go to sleep because you're getting too tired. You can't escape that darkness. It's the reaper going to always come from you. You don't have to go to the center. It comes to you when you die. So the center that we left from when we left Eden, it still was in us. And we can go to the center in our dreams too, because it's more than one way to travel. There's space inside of us and outside of us. So this is the womb concept, because the darkness is the womb. Womb is room, not space. They gave you space as darkness so they can program you with a feeling of emptiness, but it's not space, it's room. Room is tomb. Room is womb. It's the Om. And the omen is the covenant. Now here's the North Pole surrounded by 4 continents. Like I said, you can see it on her apron here with the yoni in the middle, surrounded by the 4 continents. What you looking at is Christian art, and they were flat earthers. This was before the Bible, before the unification in Egypt. The Bible is not just a Greek book, it's an Egyptian book. That's why they tell you Moses learned from the Egyptians. It start off in Egypt, and it have them being kicked out of Egypt because the second Exodus came out of Africa. Now that's where we get the out of Africa theory from. But it's only a theory because life didn't originate from Africa. The most diversity and the most people live in Eden at the center of the earth. This is where the pygmy from. We all originated from Eden. So they made a second Genesis, and that's what you get in the Bible. That's the second Genesis. That's the out of Africa Genesis. But they giving it to you like it's the first one. We first migrated from Eden, and we created new world centers in Greece and in Egypt. And we no longer had reverence for the original world center. We created new world centers in Greece and Egypt. And that divided the world up into 2 groups, Eastern world and Western world. That is the duat that keeps us divided today. It's a double-headed dragon with the same religions. The Hinduism is Krishna, is Christ, the same Western religions, but it keeps us divided. We were all unified. There was no Western world and Eastern world. There was Central world. That's where you get the Pangea from. The continents then separate. The minds of the humans separated, divide and conquer, because of all of these world religions that keeps us from this one truth right here. The Bible's Eden is a different Eden to keep you away from the real Eden where all these compasses pointing. So, because the Bible gives you rule under Jesus, but the Christians desecrated the tree of life. This is the tree of life right here. This is Isis and Ma'at. The word serpent means present. When you change the word serpent, it means present. She's the gift, not Santa Claus and the tree and all that. The present and the gift, because we keep bringing up Santa Claus, means the now. Every second is being created by a vibration coming from the North Pole. And the moment she stopped breathing, we stopped breathing. It ain't over to the fat lady saying, she the fat lady. You see, when she starts singing, she disturbed the vibration. So the all-seeing eye is the drip that created the ripple effect and sent us on a journey outward out of Eden. So the further we get from the mother, the more we got to have these conversations for people like me to get us back to that all-seeing eye above this drip right here. You see, that's the all-seeing eye, this driplet right here. And when you think of a lowercase I, this is the I am that I am. And here's the womb, the V. This the womb right here. This is nature. You can drop a rock in the water now and see how the earth was created, because this water represents the darkness. And the drop in the water represents the conscious thought of the subconscious. And it disturbs the darkness. It disturbs, it creates a rip in time and space. Don't that sound familiar? That's what NASA teach you. They tell you when a new galaxy is born, is a rip in time and space. That's what happens. A rip is a ripple. Rip is ripple. And if you think about the word ripple, is where we get the word repel from, which became the word rebel. Rebel is ripple. All of us are ripples that it emanated from the first vibration that spoke it all in the beginning in Genesis. So we're all rebels or fallen angels, individual eyes that's moving from the center with the center in us. The further we move from the center, the more concept of individuality we get. The closer we move to the center, the more of a herd mind we get, like fishes in the water that move as one body. The only reason we having this conversation now because we migrated too far from the antenna, the North Pole where the signal coming from. And with the religions and the creation of New World centers, they intercepted us from the source. And now our antenna is programmed to pick up signals from the Bible. It's programmed to pick up signals from the Quran instead of signals from Eden. That's allowing me to decode your reality so beautifully the way I'm doing now. So the I was the vibration that disturbed the waters and created our existence. Your world is a ripple effect. The flat earth ring map show you this. The God El show you this. Here he goes surrounded by the ripple. But if you look at him, he's shaped like the witch hat. This is the witch hat. It's shaped like a triangle. But look though, here it is right here. Here go the triangle. Here go the witch hat. Here go the vagina, the North Pole, the Mount Meru with the all-seeing eye or the detached capstone. This is what they telling you on American Dollar, y'all. I'm pouring my heart out trying to get y'all to see this. It really drives me crazy that, you know, I really see this and no one really want to see it with me, you know, the great teachers. Because look, this is the step pyramids that we don't pay attention to today because we so busy looking at the smooth pyramids. This represents de-evolution. When we smoothed the pyramids out, we was going down in consciousness. The step pyramids represent the stairway to heaven because the step pyramid is really the ripples with the all-seeing eye at the top. Here. This is the step pyramid. The ancestors made this all over the world. Let me show you some. Here you go. You got one in Egypt. You got one in America. You got step pyramids all over the world. And guess what? They do not have a capstone on the top. Brother Sanchez, why ain't no capstone on the top of this step pyramid? Because the ancestors weren't making a step pyramid with the capstone on top. They was doing this. They was making a ripple effect. And here go the steps right here. The steps are the different worlds. When you make it to the ice ring, you have to take a step up. because it's a 200-foot wall. So these steps are coming from the steeple. The word step and steeple. The word ripple is reaper, because you can't escape this eye. This the disco ball. Well, we all got to come past this. So the I am, all right. Again, the all-seeing eye with the detached capstone is the ripple effect, us migrating from Eden. All right. So when you talked about earlier, Santos, you said that the goddess was the manna. You said she was the manna that rain from heaven is what the manna is. It's the rain from heaven. Here it is right here. She's the rain. That's the darkness. That's the Most High. The rain is the rain, meaning the ruler. She's who rains down from the darkness and projects herself in the form of you and me. We're her children. It starts with the stars, then it come down to the sun and moon. Now we are the conversation. See, the conversation started in the darkness, and because of that, there was a ripple effect, and we're continuing the conversation right now on this earth. This is the conversation that the Most High was having when it disturbed the waters, and this is the one we'll continue on with forever and ever. See, the thing is, the ripple started from the center, and everything started creating this world like a big bang going outwards. So this is your big bang concept of something exploding and then everything being created from that explosion falling outward or repelling outward, like they show you with the Big Bang. This is what they're giving you. This was the Big Bang. The original sea is just pure darkness. That's what created water. Water is not the primordial source, what keeps you alive. Darkness keep you alive. The moment you can't access the darkness, you can't reset. You can't be reborn. That's what they trying to do. They trying to make it to where when you close your eyes, you can't see shit but Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes, rap music, nightmares and scary movies. They want to reprogram your darkness. So, man, when I was little, I used to have nightmares that I was floating in outer space. Now we know all that shit fake, but they was controlling my dreams. They the Freddy Kruegers. They are the Archons, Santos. Freddy Krueger was an Archon. Archons control your subconscious. That's what they do through the programming. These ain't no invisible creatures. These are magicians that's wearing science robes. These are people like Neil deGrasse Tyson programming the subconscious. If when you die, all you can see is the lies they put into the darkness, that put into your darkness, you can't create a world for yourself. Jesus said, in my Father's kingdom, there are many mansions. The word mansion is the word mention. Mention is dimension. When we say there are many dimensions, there are many mansions. And mention, when you mention something, you speak it, you speak about it. It's all dealing with vibration. Sound is sin. It became sin because the new word was spoken in Genesis, and it took us away from the old vibration. So when we open up the book of Genesis, we close the book of Eden, we close the book of Mother Nature when we open up the book of man and the Bibles and all the religions. When we close those books, we'll open back up the book outside, which is really the book of life. Now we got to go tear down trees to make Bibles and Qurans. We need the trees to breathe. The books only cause confusion and war. Why do we destroy nature to make books that's written by man and argue about them when the real book is nature? I don't think the creator wants us tearing down trees to make texts like Bibles and stuff. So that's just me. But when you talk about that manna from heaven, that's the many worlds that the creator is creating by disturbing that water with new ideas, and new worlds are born. You're creating worlds also in this infinite primordial sea. And this is represented by the darkness that sandwiches the earth in the middle. The sandwich is the great mother. That's why you see the witch hat right here. She is the sandwich. So I went over this the other day, how our cosmos is made like a sandwich. They even put a toothpick in it to symbolize the North Pole. They talking to you. The toothpick is the North Pole. That's the great mother. She's the one that holds the sandwich together, y'all. The North Pole is what holds it all together. That's the magnetism. And then you got your first arch, which is Nut, and your second arch, which is another Nut. So that's why you got something called a donut, because a donut is a dos nut or a dos nut, a double nut. This is a form of a donut with the hole in the middle. The meat is the earth where we all meet up at. This is the meeting ground where we meet at in between. So this is, let me find a good one. All right, so, all right, hold on. So if you can look at this like that hamburger, this is where the meat, the earth is the meat, where we all meet up at. And if you look in the middle of this Sumerian cosmos, what do you see? A step pyramid that's missing the capstone, because they're telling us the ripple effect. And I'm almost done here. Here's the ripple effect. You see how we're surrounded by donuts or double nuts? You call it the Taurus field. What is the Taurus? Is the bull. So when they slayed the bull, they broke the covenant. What is the covenant? That's Nut. They broke our connection with the mother. Remember that Saturn is the reaper. This is the symbol of Saturn. You can see he carried a tool of the reaper. You see, Saturn is the reaper, but who is the reaper? The reaper is the ripple. It's the all-seeing eye. It's what slices you or what eats you upon death. If you look at the number 8, it's the symbol of infinity, but it means to devour, to recycle, hourglass. Even in the Hindu cosmos, you can see the god is eating you at the North Pole with the number 8 right there. Let me show you. This is the Tibetan wheel. You see her mouth open in the middle? This is what a ripple is. Her mouth is open because not only did she speak this whole vibration into being, but she's the one who devour you upon death and spit you back out again in this world. So it's the great womb in the middle. And if you look, it's an hourglass. And this is where you get 8. Hourglass is 8. She eats you, is magnetic energy. She reabsorbs you back into the womb and spits you back out again when you're born again. That's the bow and arrow. She is what allowed an arrow to take flight, because she can bend. She's flexible. And that stiff arrow can be pulled from her center, and she'll repel that arrow forward. And that repelling of the arrow is the ripple. It's nothing but vibration, and it's coming from the center of the earth. It's a vibration causing a ripple effect. That's the heartbeat of the Most High. All right, that's the inhale and exhale of the Most High that gives us the sun and moon and the low tide and high tide, controlling the ocean from the North Pole, creating more and more ripples, more and more waves, because all is vibration. Waves is water. We need that for life. Everything moves in waves, water, sound, and these waves can act like a barrier. That's why they say sound barrier. But None of these barriers are prisons. You can penetrate any of these ripples of these barriers simply by making yourself neutral, because it's neutral energy, not high energy, not low energy. New is neutral, neutral. It's pure darkness. It's non-biased. It doesn't do this or that. It simply is. It's not the polarity, it's the pole. So it's the God view, because when you're at the crossroads, you can see the left and the right. But once you make a decision, you're only limited to that path. So when this is the God view of the Most High, or the all-seeing eye, what we're taking now. Now I'm gonna wrap this up, but remember that the ripple is the rebel, the reaper, and this was the god Saturn. You can see him here again with the ripple or the ring around him. He is the all-seeing eye. That's why his head is turned. They turned his head on purpose because they only wanted one eye to be seen. This is the all-seeing eye.